What's up, guys? It's Will with Basic Gear Review, and I'm here with Jayme Lewis from thebassist.net. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, bro. How you been?
It's good to see you. I'm good. So today we're going to kind of just talk about knowing how to play kind of chops versus the actual knowledge of theory, whereas I would hold chop and he would hold theory in this case. I mean, he holds both, but, you know.
Well, they go hand in hand sometimes.
Yes,
not always.
So, started off, I kind of got my inspiration. I want to talk mainly about harmonics today just because of the relativity to certain notes. I'm not too sure. I know it sounds good, but I'm not sure exactly what I'm playing. So my biggest inspiration when it comes to harmonics and just a lot of how I play in general is obviously Jaco Pastorius.
He did a lot for
for I watched the Rob Trujillo made that documentary about him. Did you see that? And I watched that, and I knew who he was prior, but that really like opened my eyes. Like, wow, this guy.
You didn't know who Jaco was before?
Yeah, like I knew
wow.
who he was, and I had heard stuff. But like it was really right around the time I had started like really taking all this stuff seriously, and I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. Because everything I'd played before that was all like Geddy Lee was my biggest inspiration, and I played really hard and really fast and stuff. And then I saw him play, and I was like, oh my god, there's so much finesse, and so he just knows exactly what he's doing. He has no qualms with anything.
Yeah, I was late to Jaco too. I think my early 20s. No. I was 18. I was working at a record store.
Oh, nice.
See, there were these things called records. They're about this big, and I worked at a record store when I was like 17, 18 years old. It's the only job I've ever had in my life. I'm 32 now, so I haven't worked ever.
Living the dream.
Yes,
living the dream.
Somebody's dream. And yeah, so I worked at a record store, and I always heard this name Jaco, and I grew up on players like Stanley Clarke, same thing, Geddy Lee, Victor Wooten, like those kind of guys. But and I would always hear them talk about this guy Jaco, but I never heard it. And so I just, we had a Jaco record, so I put it on, and Donna Lee the first time, and I was just like, what?
That's
the hell
absolutely
is
incredible.
this?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. So the first time you listen to Jaco, you just stop what you're doing and you go, my ears don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like I've heard people shred, but I've never. What?
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? Like, it just stops you dead in your tracks.
For multiple reasons too. How he shreds and his tone that he gets is unlike anything at the time. It was just so throaty and like just in the like any track he was on, the bass was one of the leading instruments every time. Yeah. Which is incredible. That was a really cool thing to see too, especially in jazz music, because like jazz fusion, those people were unbelievable artists.
Yeah,
so,
especially at that point in time too. Return to Forever, Weather Report. You know what I mean? Like they were taking. It was like funk fusion, rock fusion, just like taking all the best elements of every genre.
And Jaco had a lot of because he was from Florida, he had a lot of like the Cuban influence as well that he brought into everything. So that was awesome.
Yeah, and then obviously, harmonics. He was one of the pioneers of making it a sound, part of our instrument. You know, so yeah, that guy he did so much for the bass guitar that it's not even funny. He's been gone for 31 years now. He died the day before my first birthday, September 21st, 1987. My birthday, September 22nd, 1986. But anyways, so he's been gone for a long time, and the bass community is still feeling the absence. Yeah, so
absolutely.
If you haven't heard Jaco, just I'm sorry for saying that, but just stop this video now.
No,
type
absolutely.
in Jaco Pastorius and then come back after you've gone down that rabbit hole.
And it'll probably take you a couple days to come back, but
it's all good. We'll still be here.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Yeah.
We'll be here for a lot of days.
Right.
So that segues good well into I got inspired by his shapes and the things he was doing with harmonics, but I've never quite understood exactly like what notes I'm playing, with him. I just know that relative to C, that sounds good, relative to D, that sounds good, that kind of stuff. But I have no idea what the intervals are or anything that I'm doing, so to apply it in a different musical sense where I'm not playing the C underneath it or anything is something that is a little out of reach for me. So I was hoping you could kind of point me in the right direction to figure that out.
Well, to be honest, I mean, even like my knowledge of harmonics, it's probably very similar. I learned how to play Jaco's lines, and okay, so what am I playing there? So starting on a C, bum bum bum. That's the third, right? So I got root third, 9,
okay,
or 2, whatever. And then that's your fifth, right? So so you get off that shape, the one that you did, that's root 9, fifth.
Okay.
Right, and then this one, it's the same thing. We're just adding the third with the E.
And it gives it those crazy sounds because the voicings are so different, because you're getting the 9 before the 5 in this situation, so that's what makes it sound so like ethereal and beautiful.
And so harmonics get kind of complicated to, like, in other words, I know this is C, I know this is G, I know this is C. Well, what's this? Or what's what's that? You know what I mean? Like, what note is that in relation to, not, I mean, anything, but just like you know, this is a B flat, but the harmonic on fret 3, like what is that
yeah,
note? You know,
completely
it's
different thing.
which is easy to find. It's ba, ba. Okay, so it's a D.
Okay, yeah.
They're hard to find sometimes. You know what I mean?
You gotta get that
Okay. So
perfect
now I
spot.
know. So now I know my 3rd fret harmonic on my 1st string is actually a D. Jeez. You know what I mean? So it's just like, well, the same way I had to learn that fret 7 is D, when I need to learn that
Okay, so
fret 3
yeah,
harmonic
it's
is
almost
a,
like
is a D also.
relearning the situation.
Yeah, so like the same way that you play this pattern. Or I guess I should do it. I should. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so you
okay.
just have.
Oh,
There's
that's
kind of like
awesome.
if this pattern is layer 1
Mm-hmm.
of the bass guitar. Well, this is layer 2. There's like a sub-layer of notes underneath,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because if I played, well, that doesn't sound like what I just played. But if I were to do those harmonics,
Oh, man.
you know, then you know what's up. So to come back to like this whole harmonic thing, I don't really think of it in terms of like, oh, if I want to play D sharp 9 flat 5, well, these are the harmonics I would use. Like I don't think of it that way. I just know what those notes are, and if I want to add that note, well, I know what harmonic it is. If I want to add an F sharp,
Okay.
it's that one. Right?
Okay.
So I would look at like shortcuts for which notes are which harmonics. All right. So your 5th fret harmonic is the same as your open string.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So 5th fret of E harmonic is E.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And A, D, G. You know, I mean, just whatever the 5th fret is of the harmonic, it's the same as the open
Okay.
string, and that's the same with your fret 12. And by the way, the instrument mirrors itself.
Yeah. Once you hit the
here.
12th fret, that's
You know what I
something I
mean?
found out on my own too. Is trying to play up here, and I was like, wait, that sounds exactly
Right. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah. So this 9th fret harmonic is the same as this 15th fret harmonic. Or sorry, 16th fret
16,
harmonic.
yeah, okay.
Right. So like literally, it's a mirror image of what's happening
Yeah.
from this point. You know what I mean? So anyways, yeah. So then I would just look at, so what are the most obvious ones? Fret 9, fret 7, fret 5, fret 4, fret 3 has 2 of them.
Oh wow.
Actually, 3 of them.
That's
in
that's
there.
crazy. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
So I would just like, okay, so what are those notes? And then now I know what they are.
And then from there, you kind of have your other basis sort of like look at relatively.
Sure.
the
So
notes.
like if I wanted to play like a D chord, right? Okay.
Oh, man.
So there's a C sharp is your 9th fret on the A, right? So there's the root, there's the 7, there's the 5th, and there's your octave, right? But another way I could do it there too, because I know this is D, I know this is F sharp, I know that right there is A. No, that's the octave. You know what I mean? So like I'm just looking for like, okay, so what are these target notes? What chord am I trying to play? All right, so now those harmonics are going to pop out to me when I look at them. The same as like just knowing your notes in general.
Yeah.
D chord is spelled D, F sharp, A, so I could play this F sharp, I could play this D, I could play this D, I could play this D, I could play that one, I could play that one, I could play this A, I could play that one, I could play this F sharp, I could play that F sharp, I could play that one or that one. I mean, it's the same thing, like just these notes pop out to you and you're like, oh, I could play any one of those over a D chord. So okay, so I could play this F sharp, I could play this F sharp, I could play, where else does it happen? Right, it happens right there. You know, again, I'm not as quick with my harmonics because again, it's like that it's that hidden layer underneath.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
what I would recommend is whatever harmonic shapes you know. All right, so figure out what those notes are.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So those were 2 5th fret harmonics, so it's a C, D, and a G.
Okay.
Right, that's essentially what you're doing.
Oh,
Technically,
okay,
you're playing these 2 notes. Right?
Yeah,
That's what you're
okay.
doing, but you're catching it that
Oh,
way.
that's
You know what I
gorgeous.
mean?
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so cool.
It's a beautiful sound. It's a
So
beautiful
where
sound.
did you study music? Because your knowledge of all these things is incredible.
Well, I didn't study any of this stuff in college.
No,
but,
yeah.
But I went to California State University of Northridge.
Okay.
We actually live very close to each
Yeah,
other.
we live
yeah.
within 20 miles of each other. We just found out.
Oddly enough, yeah, we had to come all the way to Germany to find out. They're like, oh, you grew up down the street. Weird.
That's so funny.
But yeah, so Cal State Northridge was the nearest university. So
Okay.
actually, I went to Moore Park for 2 years and then CSUN for 2 years.
Okay, very
And I studied classical music. My degree is in classical double bass. I've always been a bass guitarist, but yeah, I got my degree in classical music. And so like the disciplines that you get from studying and doing that kind of stuff, you can apply it to anything. You know,
Oh, yeah,
you just have to, you know, just change the criteria basically. So.
And then have you studied like ear training? You've worked with that because it seems
Well, yeah,
like
you
from what
have
I'm
to. I mean,
hearing-
yeah, you can't get a degree in music without doing.
Oh,
ear training.
really?
Yeah.
See, this is all stuff I
Yeah, so part of the curriculum is obviously your instrument. So, you know, as a bowed,
Yeah,
class,
yeah.
you know, double bass. But you still go through 2 years of harmony. So you learn everything under the sun about how to make every single chord, every single melody, every single scale, every single whatever there is. Not only on pencil and paper, but then also by hearing it. So my absolute favorite classes were the ear training class because I was really good at it.
Yeah,
And
I can tell.
So the teacher, you know, sits behind a piano and just starts playing, and you just start writing down what he's doing.
Now, would they
No
have you
instrument
do-
in hand, you know. What I mean,
Okay,
like
yeah,
you're just doing it.
pen and paper.
Yeah, pen and paper. And so yeah, that was my favorite class because I look at music like a puzzle. You know, why do people like puzzles? Because you put them together and then you finish it and you're like, look, I did it.
I
And
did
so
it.
when I hear a song, it's like, what's happening? And in my head starts going to work. The gear starts spinning. It's like, oh, cool, I figured out the song. You know,
Yeah,
and I
that's
can write it
awesome.
down or you know, do
And then
whatever
would
from that point.
Would your professor have you like? Would he play like big chords and have you pick out each note from the chord?
Well,
and things
I mean,
like that?
it could be anything. It could be, you play a chord, play a melody, and yeah,
and you're just expected to
yeah, you have to
jot
do
down
everything.
everything. That's
Yep.
incredible. That's really cool.
It's a fantastic skill to have.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the way I look at it is like, do you need to do that to be able to play music? Which is the topic of Adam Neely's,
Adam's panel.
thing tonight.
Yeah.
Like, do you need to do that to be able to write songs? No, absolutely not. But the way I look at it is, if you know theory and you know what these notes are and what this stuff is, it's just one more tool in the tool belt. You know,
Exactly. It's
so
not like it's going to hurt in any way. So that's
a very practical way to think about it is like this. If I'm doing a cover band gig, right, and I've got, I don't know, 3 hours of music to learn, right? It's going to take me 3 hours to learn it because I'm going to listen to the song once, I'm going to write it down, and then when I get to the gig, I'm just going to sight read my own writing.
Okay,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
versus if I had to learn 3 hours of material and I had to learn it by ear by listening to each song over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Well, it takes me 3 hours to listen to the songs once. Well, you have to listen to it more than once to learn it, right? So,
Yeah, so that's
3
it.
hours to listen to it once, 6 hours to listen to it twice, 9 hours. How much are they paying me? Are they paying me 9 hours worth of work, or are they paying me just 3 hours? I'm only putting in the 3 hours, or maybe even less. You know what I mean? I might do a
That's
quick version of the song.
a very good point. I've never even thought of it that way.
Yeah, yeah. That's my rule of thumb is if it's a one-off gig, there's no rehearsal. I'm not coming to rehearsal, and I'm also I'm not going to memorize it. I'm going to
Yeah.
write it down, and I'm going to sight read my charts on stage, and it's going to be fine. You know,
Yeah, well,
it's
you
going to be
get
okay.
to a certain level where that's expected. People are like, okay, he's going to show up and know what
yeah,
he's doing.
yeah, exactly. And I'm looking right at the music. I'm not going to get it wrong.
Exactly,
You know what I mean? I can't look
exactly.
at a C and play F. You know, like it's easy. I'm looking right at it. It's like reading a book, basically.
Yeah.
Versus like if we're doing the same set night after night after night, or we're going on a 3-week tour. All right, I'll learn this stuff. I'm not trying to be an ass, you know.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it literally just comes down to time. If the gig only pays this much, and I don't have time to invest more than an hour, 2 hours, then it's just a lot easier to just write it down and then read my notes.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, do you do session work for people as well as playing live, things
Yeah.
like that? Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, and again, yeah, in the studio, that's a really cool thing to, you'll impress the artist if you don't have your bass in your hand. You listen to it, and you're like, okay, that's a C, that's a G over B, that's this, that's that, and then, oh, wait, we're going to push that on the, okay, cool. And then you pick up your bass and you start playing it, and the producer's going to look at you and go, who's this guy, and how do I get him back next time?
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to say anything, I didn't have to explain anything.
One take, just take
Well,
it out. in one-
even if you take more than one, that's okay. The fact that you know what they're doing,
Yeah.
they don't need to tell you, oh, here's how the lick goes, and here's, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
so that's. Do you need to know theory to do all that? I mean, no, but it helps a ton. It makes it a lot easier, and it just helps you connect some dots.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
upstairs. You know.
That's where kind of I'm getting in my career as a bassist. Career isn't really the right word, but
It's a good word. I'll
yeah,
take it.
that's good
Yeah.
enough. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything I did was by ear, and still to this day it is. And I'm getting to the point where I'm yearning to write things. Like I hear things in my head, you know what I mean? But I can't translate it to the instrument every time.
Well, and also keep in mind, like, there's other instruments.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, so like, if I go to my guitar player and I go, and I'm like, hey, play that. Well, we have the same notes, the same first 4 notes, so he could play that. But if I go to my saxophone player, I'm like, yeah, play this fret, this fret, this fret, and then on this string, he's gonna look at you and go, what?
Yeah.
I don't have any frets, any strings. But if I'm like, oh yeah, play D, F sharp, and E, he knows what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
So
what I mean?
it's like a universal language at that point, which is awesome.
Totally, yeah.
So I'm hoping to kind of get more into that. I want to start going to school. I mean, I'm on the late train, but anytime is better than never. You know what I
A
mean?
shameless plug. I actually have. I wrote an entire music theory curriculum.
Okay.
Do you know what P90X is and
Yeah.
any of that?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
took that model and I just applied it to music theory. So
Okay.
it's a it's a set of videos and a book that you can follow along with, and you just go from video 1 to the end. And when you get to the end of it, you've essentially finished the first 2.5 years of a collegiate music theory and ear training
Wow.
program.
Now, with that, are there, like, you watch your video and then you say, okay, now I recommend doing
Yeah,
X
there's a whole
amount of
bunch
hours of
Well,
work?
yeah, there's audio. It's video, audio, and book. So
Okay.
yeah, there's things that you listen to train your ear. There's tests that you take, video tests that you take to check it out. If you want to look at it, it's called ignitemusicaltraining.com. You can look and check it out. But yeah, so
Absolutely.
basically I just took everything I learned in college, concise it down into something that you could get through in about 12 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's 12 chapters, and if you did 1 chapter a week, you know everything that you need to know by 3 months. Will you be a master at it? It takes a little bit longer than that, but at least you have the information, and you can go back and go at your own pace and review it. So,
Cool. Well,
yeah,
I know what I'm doing when I get home.
there you go.
Yeah,
You can check
that's
it out.
awesome. Well, cool. Yeah. So nice talk. I just kind of wanted to, touch base on things like that and kind of learn how you would approach harmonics and things like that. So I really appreciate you helping me out. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna
my
be seeing a
pleasure,
lot
dude,
more
yeah.
of you for the next 12 weeks. So.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Awesome.
guys.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm Will with Basic Gear Review. We got Jayme here, and we'll see you guys next time.
Adios.
Sweet. That was wonderful.
Too easy.